I feel a little melancholy today. Because in my city, there's a river. There's somebody lawn mowing with a motor mower. Not one of them old click-clacks. So here's the river. And it flows through a pretty heavily populated area. We got something like 2,000 people per square mile around here. It's a nice city, nice people. But it's got its problems. And it's got a past full of problems. Got a future too. There's Dad and Mom getting ready to have some baby ducks. Some people think that this is just something to fill in or cover over and shut up and forget about. I like that. This is the Lower Rouge, and it flows down into the main branches of the Rouge, joins the middle and the upper, and then it goes on down to the Detroit River, where our water comes from, drinking water. Parts of it. If you take a little closer look at it, it's greened up right now. Patches of brown that flow through here. It's pretty seriously polluted. There are reports of traces of organic mercury that still flow through these waters. There's heavy metals, biologicals, and other bacteria that flow through here. So this diseased parts of it, it's got something called a no contact order against it. So you don't want to, you can look at it, but you don't want to come in contact with this water, especially not for any length of time. And some people here in the city, they grew up and they remembered it when it was clean and pretty and all that stuff. Or maybe they thought they did, because a lot of the damage occurred here during the 1940s and 50s during the wars, and when manufacturing was just going gangbusters. And if you had some mercury to get rid of, well, you just poured it down a drain somewhere, or you put it in a stream. And the same for battery acid and a whole lot of other different chemicals. There's a couple of squirrels over there having themselves a time. And of course it entered into the river system and polluted it, killing most of the plant life, because though we see in here it's greenish and things like that, some of it's from algae, but it's not quite clear where all this green is coming from. The natural plants that used to live here, they're gone. They're not in the waterbed. There might be some few scattered here and there, but they're generally gone. And there's every once in a while I just smelt that there's a fetid smell. And that's probably coming partly from here. But even if you're along open sections of this river, you get to smell that as well. The river goes down to a dam down on the Rouge by some Ford museum. And they're redoing the dam. They're not going to open it up and let the water flow through. They're just going to redo the dam so people can look at the historical dam and see how people in the past used to make electricity with water. But now around here, it's made with natural gas, which is kind of good. Still some petroleum plants, a couple of coal fuel plants still going on, and of course, nuclear power plants. Water, energy has been neglected for a long time around here, but it was very popular. Mr. Ford was big on it, and there's lots of dams around here that he built. Now that one's going to be, it's at the confluence of the rivers where they join into one, and to remove it would make the motion of the natural fishes easier up into the channel, those that could survive it, and it would also allow this flow to clear itself out a little bit. But they're not going to do that because they have a museum. So that's going on with that. Let's get back to the water though. The water's pretty nasty. You don't want to come in contact with it. And folks here in the city of Wayne have worked long and hard to try and clean it up. I was told there were 12-foot high piles of human waste and all that sorts of stuff, because they didn't use, that were pushed into the river at times in the past, many years ago. I think maybe definitely more than 20. I think that's about the time when they finished separating the water systems. That's the drains off of the streets and the sanitary sewers. Yes, the sanitary sewers emptied right down into here. I'll never forget a few years ago when there was a flood on the Huron, and I went down there and the trees were festooned with all sorts of things that you normally only see when you're flushing it down the toilet or wrapping it up in a little plastic bag and throwing it in the trash. Quite amazing. So anyway, the damage that was done here is still down there in the bed and along the banks of the river. And with loving care and tenderness, this could be improved. But right now, to the west of us, there is another community that's grown up, and it's got several McMansion expansions going on. And what happens over there is they have giant collectors where they collect the runoff from the roadways and they gather it all together and then they release it at different times. So just that will change the flow level in this river drastically and make it extremely unfriendly to the creatures that normally live in here, because when they store it in the water, the grounds around here are very warm and sometimes heated, and the water heats up on its own because it's there in a big collected basin, and when they release it, it changes the temperature and the quality of the water that's flowing through here. So it's a big challenge. So I'm down here talking about it because this is the first time I'm talking about the problems of the river, because I'm kind of feeling melancholy right now, because as we were moving forward and getting ready to replace some plants and some other natural creatures in a stream around here, they called them drains because I'm not quite sure why they did that, but the farmers used to have drains around here because this place was a swamp. It was the Black Swamp, and they used to drain the fields, but not all the way, because they did something called black muck farming. And just to the west of here, just within a mile and a half, was the most fecund and fertile ground for growing corn in the entire world. Right now, you can buy a very nice home at a very expensive price. All the farms are going away. And the food is produced elsewhere, out in the deserts in California, New Mexico, Nevada. Meanwhile, we're sitting here with some stinky rivers that we can't even drink out of. Anyway, I'll be talking more about this. Just kind of feeling a little draggy right now. Don't let that get you down, though, because it's a beautiful day.